Today, we'll be covering what it means when regulatory guidance is pending. I'm Trey Hearn with Fidelity Investments, and with me today is Jillian Enoch with Fidelity's Public Policy and Government Relations team.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Now, as we work with plan sponsors to implement changes to their plans based on legislation like Secure Act and Secure 2.0, what does it mean when we indicate that guidance is pending, and why wasn't it issued during the legislative process?
Yeah, Congress has a lot on their plates. Legislators and their staff are working on many issues in a short amount of time. Now, they'll try and gather information and write meaningful and well thought out laws, but honestly, they don't always have the time, resources, or deep industry experience to fill in all the blanks.
That's fair. And I'm sure that raises a lot of questions and gray areas in developing and interpreting laws. So what's the solution to this?
Yeah, so once a law has been passed and signed by the president, it is out of Congress's hands. They would have to pass more legislation to change that law. So the baton gets passed to the agencies to assist with implementation. Now, at times, Congress will tell the IRS, Treasury, or other relevant agencies that they need to issue guidance implementing the law. For example, as part of Secure 2.0, Congress included a provision requiring the Department of Labor to create this lost and found database. Congress saw a need, passed the law to make it happen, but ultimately they left all the details up to the Department of Labor to actually implement. Now, other times there might be a gray area, which is where industry can step in and ask the agencies for help with clarifying the law. And a good example here is the student debt retirement match guidance that was issued by the IRS and Treasury. Now, as we were working to implement the provision, we realized we had some questions that were arising that we couldn't answer and needed additional guidance. So we went in with IRS and Treasury and strongly advocated for that guidance that we ultimately received.
Love that. Sounds like there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of research that goes into this whole process. What are other ways that Fidelity is engaged with Congress and other regulatory agencies?
Yeah, at Fidelity, we engage with Washington, D.C. policymakers and across all of the state capitals at all points in the legislative process. And as leading retirement provider, we use our industry experience and insights we get from the plan sponsors we work with and their participants to arm legislators with information to help them make strong laws. And we also have relationships and meet regularly with the agencies like the IRS, Treasury, and Department of Labor. We'll work with them to take plan sponsor interests under advisement as they're working to provide clarity to the laws.
Love that. That's really valuable insight into how Fidelity is advocating for plan sponsors throughout the legislative and regulatory process. Thank you so much, Jillian.
Thank you, Trey.